right, let's talk about goals. So there's a few different ways to kind of look at goal setting. One is my goal an outcome-based goal, or is my goal something that's going to drive me towards action? And when we're doing personal goal setting, we're talking about this from the perspective of process-based goals and outcome-based goals. So an outcome-based goal would be like, okay, I want to run a 10K in 45 minutes. That would be like an outcome-based goal. And a process goal would be, I want to start running 3 or 4 times a week. So those would be like the difference between a process goal and an outcome-based goal. When we're talking about business, I like to use, these format called lead measures and lag measures. So it becomes a little bit more sort of business focused, and a lag measure is effectively an outcome. It's if we do these things, then we'll end up with this objective and outcome. And lead measures become the activity that you or your team end up doing in order to achieve a lag measure. So you set a series of lead measures, and then you create those lag measures to make those happen. So let's talk about this from a personal standpoint as well. If you're someone who's very outcome goal focused, one of the issues that can arise is that when you achieve your outcome, you can inevitably feel like, okay, well, now what? And so there's this perpetual sense of dissatisfaction. So one of the things you want to do with outcome-based goals is actually celebrate your wins. So I'm actually celebrating my wins right now because I'm going for a little country drive in one of my dream cars, which is something that I achieved as an outcome goal, which is driving a Porsche, which is awesome. I also wanted to have some motorcycles. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a house. So my wife and I worked really hard towards setting these very specific outcome-based goals, and then we did the things that were going to be needed to make those things true. And so if your process goals, the things you do every day to make the outcomes true, are things that matter to you, like they're driven to your purpose, then when you reach your outcomes, you're always going to feel a sense of satisfaction because the process doesn't go away. It just aligns itself to a new outcome. So this is like an important distinction on how to set effective goal setting. And you also want to celebrate other people's achievements. So this idea of goals are going to create emotion, right? Like your vision should drive you and your goals should drive you. And if your vision turns you into a better sense of yourself, you're going to be in much better shape. And you're going to be more valuable to the people around you at the same time. And this idea of, when you're working with a team, other people on your team are going to achieve things faster than you might. Or if you're working with colleagues, they might achieve something. And if you're able to celebrate those moments, celebrate those wins, then you're putting yourself in the right mindset. If the emotions that come up when someone else achieves something are, gap psychology, which is like, well, they have it, I don't, then it's going to create negative emotions, frustration in yourself, envy in the other person. And these are generally feelings that are not ideal. Now, if you see someone else achieve something and it kind of drives you, like it gives you a little bit of a burn, and you're like, oh man, they could get it, and so that means that I can get it, like they can act this way and they can behave this way and they can make these changes for themselves, that means it's possible for you also. And so this sort of positive style goal setting of setting things up in a way where you're going to be able to be clear on it, it's going to be way better. Now, what happens if you don't have the right goals or you don't know what your goals are? Well, decision making is going to become very, very hard because you don't know what the outcome you're going for is. If you have a clear sense of what it is that you want to achieve, then you're going to have an easier time making decisions that will or won't lead you towards those achievements. Like, if you're very family driven, I was very family driven, we wanted to have kids and a house and all that stuff, then you're going to make decisions for your family that are going to help those outcomes. If you want to drive really fast vehicles. I like to drive fast motorcycles and fast cars. I'm going to make decisions that are going to help me achieve that way of living. And the more you can clarify your outcomes, the better. Now, if you're in a relationship, business relationship, personal relationship, and you don't know each other's objectives, then that's where the conversation has to start. Because, if you're in business together, let's take business as an example, and you don't know what your business partner wants or what your colleagues want out of the business, you're going to have a hard time making decisions. It just won't be as easy. It's pretty obvious to think that. Now, if you have a personal relationship, like say you and your partner, right? So, you and your wife, you and your husband, whatever the relationship is, and you don't know what each other wants, your decisions are going to get super confusing. And when your decisions get confusing, you're not going to understand each other. And when you don't understand each other, there's a cool corner coming up right over here, and you're not going to understand each other, and so you're going to have a hard time making decisions that are in alignment with each other. So, I know what my wife wants. My wife knows what I want, and so we support each other in decision-making processes. Whether that's starting a new business, who I work with, who she works with, what we try to achieve, what we do with our money, what kind of trips we go on, where we spend our time, what shows we watch. All these things become way better in alignment. So coming back to the very seed of this, if you're starting to set some goals, make sure you have a balance of both process and outcome. And if you're talking about your business, make sure they're lead and lag. And then ensure that the outcomes and the objectives that you have with your people that are closely tied to helping you achieve those goals, that you are in alignment on what those outcomes